Hi, do you enjoy travel? Do you enjoy visiting new places to you, whether literally and physically, or by reading about them, or perhaps watching documentaries and movies set in other places? If so, you could easily be on the way to building the broad perspective that's an important component of having wisdom in the workplace. Hello, my name is Chris Anstead. I work with organizations and individuals to help them develop competencies in strategic thinking, in critical thinking, and in wisdom. Today, I want to talk about perspective, which is an important part of wisdom. I've defined wisdom in an earlier slide or an earlier video as something that employs thoughtful judgment based on a broad perspective to influence or make good decisions. So perspective is an important part of that definition. And today I want to focus on the piece of perspective related to understanding the human condition or understanding what is consistent across all human experience and what is not, what is shaped and informed by culture, language, gender, generation, work experience, etc. In other words, to bring a broad perspective to play, you need to understand or have a sense of how humans in general make decisions, how they value things, how they carry forward things they're committed to or they're not committed to, what motivates them. And at the same time, you need to understand which of those things vary across people depending on their settings, their groups, their individual personalities, and which of those things are consistent with all or most of the people you're going to meet. So here are some tips or tricks or ways in which you can think about developing your own broad perspective. I mentioned travel at the start of this talk. So travel is certainly a way to come to understand different cultures, different values, different experiences. Travel, in particular, immersive travel, travel where you don't just visit the tourist spots and the highlights, but go out and try to get a sense of the day-to-day life of people with a different experience from you. Now, that can be really rewarding, and it can certainly help you to establish this perspective I'm talking about, but it also is highly expensive, both in terms of money, but also in terms of time, resources. You can only travel and immerse yourself in so many cultures, right? There's a finite limit on it. So it certainly can't be the only way in which you start to try to develop this perspective. Let's talk about reading. I would put reading into three categories. First, there's the immersive reading, and it's also immersive watching falls into a similar role. That is reading or watching movies, reading literature, watching documentaries that emerge from within the culture or the experience that you're interested in. So watching a movie by a filmmaker from a different culture, a different generation, can be part of getting to understand, again, what is consistently human about the experience that they're having and the experiences that you have versus what is shaped by culture and not necessarily consistent. Now that's immersive reading. There's also descriptive reading, reading in which authors and specialists talk about different cultures, different experiences, different settings. So that could be in the form of history, anthropology, biography. A third type of reading is reading which explains things, explanatory reading. So reading about the history of evolution, how our brains work, what brain science tells us, psychology, those kind of things can again help to give you that broad perspective on different people's experiences and expectations. There's also meeting individuals. Now, it's tough to just sit down with a random person from a very different culture and swap life stories. That's not something we naturally do. But there are people in your family who have had different experiences. They're from a different gender, a different sexual orientation, a different generation. They work in a very different field. You can sit with them and tease out some of these differences. Just and really, it doesn't have to be something that you consciously do, but spending time with them understanding their stories, how they build a narrative around themselves, how they've made choices. That again helps you to build this perspective. In a similar way, volunteering in a different setting or even changing jobs. Again, I'm not recommending that you go out and do that, but having had a history of working in different sectors, different settings, if you've been in, say, an entrepreneurial business, a large corporation, a not-for-profit, worked for the government, all those things, again, give you a better sense of the variations in human decision making, in human cognition, well, really around values and things like that. And finally, let's talk about entertainment. You, there are ways that you spend your time here, and those entertainment options, there's probably ones that you really enjoy and you're really comfortable with. Well, try something else. If your norm is NASCAR, go to an art gallery. If your norm is going to museums, go to a demolition derby. If you see a lot of live plays, go watch a drive-in movie from the Marvel Universe. Check out the latest reality phenomenon on TV. Go to a hockey game. All these different entertainment experiences, again, will help you understand what gets people's emotions up, what they root for, who they root for, how they feel about different types of entertainment, and don't go in there with a negative attitude. Go in there with an open attitude to just understand why these other types of experiences cause other people to have enjoyment. Now, finally, before signing off, I want to talk about the difference between perspective and experiential knowledge. So it's not the same thing. You can read all you want about being a parent. It's not the same as being a parent. And the same goes with living in a war-torn country, working in a small not-for-profit, working at Google. I mean, none of these things reading about them will never give you the same experience as being them or living through them. And I mean, that's the same for everybody. Nobody can have all the experience of humanity in one person. So um, all that's important is to remain humble around your perspective, to understand that in building this perspective, you're not building experience, but you are building empathy. I hope you find that helpful. I look forward to talking to you about other elements of wisdom in the workplace. Thanks.